Hello, and welcome to Greet the Week. I am Mona Duncan, and it is a delight to have you here today. Our topic for today is nurture or nature, and I'm going to share the screen so that we can begin to look at some things and put it up here from the beginning. Okay, so we're looking at our behavior and whether or not what we might can do about it or not do about it or whatever, whether it is nature or nurture. So the aim of Greek the Week, some of you have been faithful for quite a while, and I do appreciate that, and others are coming in new. So the purpose of Greek the Week is to improve relationships in all areas, to providing warm and accepting atmosphere where we can begin to see things differently and think differently and begin to change, to stimulating growth and positive change. Sometimes there's in watering plants, you can just put a little bit of a stimulant in there and how they'll begin to flourish. Encouraging thinking and stretching beyond our present limitations, whether those limitations are real or maybe sometimes we just imposed them on ourselves. And it's also to becoming the best that you can be, the best that I can be, to always be continually growing is the aim here. Last week, we talked about becoming assertive. And I always like to go back whenever I've received information from others and kind of bring it up to date. We talked about how to be assertive and that practice is important. It is important to continually go on and go on. And I had this little 2002 cartoon by Tom Armstrong of Marvin, and Marvin's dog Bitsy is giving him, he's being his life coach. He is preparing him to not burst into tears and to be a big crybaby at daycare whenever other children call him names like namby-pamby and moddly-coddly. And so he was practicing, and although it was difficult for him, he bucked up, and he was really pleased to know that he could handle those slurs or those things that was hurled at him. And the person that, someone that made a comment that although they could see a need to become assertive, they still felt like it might be external control. And they made the comment of adding, I think you, instead of, I had mentioned that for in assertive to learn to use the language of, first of all, to always use I statements and to use the language of I feel or I think when you, whatever, because, and kind of give a reasoning for it. But the person that contacted me said, they like to add in when I think you. And I really like that. When I perceive that you are, when I assume that, whenever we begin to, and the more we can use I statements as to where we are coming from, and then give allowance to the other person to use I statements as to where they are coming from, then we can become maybe a little bit more easier to reconcile a disagreement or solve an issue. So today we're looking more at, is it the way we do, the things we do, why we do them? Is it because it's there and we just can't help it? Or is it something that we have learned? And I strongly suggest that you are life's variable. That we, and what does our life variable consist of? Well, it's just more than I can think of, more than I can put down here. It is our upbringing. It is our culture. It is the way we perceive things. It is the amount of education or lack of. It is the stories that we have heard, the stories we have believed, the stories we have conjugated, made up. It is our agenda, the things that we do and don't do. It's our fears, our experiences. It's the games we play. It's our prejudices. It's our biases. It's all of these things are variables, and they change frequently from day to day, and sometimes they change even during the process of each day. And so I have here this little person wondering, where am I going and what is it? But here's some other things that's part of our life variables, and that's our choices that we make. And realizing that those choices are just beyond measure, and they can go from the tiniest little iota of an amount to being wide spectrums. It's also, the variable is, what is our intention? Where are we coming from? How consistent are we? And out of our decisions. So I have a quote here from going back to, all the way back to Socrates. I mean, the changes in life and the ways that we grow and change, things go on pretty much the same, even though there's a lot of things that really are. Well, King Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. Anyway, Socrates declared self-knowledge to be the first and the necessary entryway into wisdom. And who among us does not want to have some wisdom? And I have a quote here from the management development system, that behavioral research suggests that the most effective people are those who understand themselves, both their strengths and weaknesses, so they can develop strategies to meet the demands of their environment, and also the demands of a multiple environment, because in the scope of the day, there may be all different types of environment that we are reaching or meeting or being a part of. And so I suggest that a key to self-knowledge is, as we begin to recognize our own biases, our own preconceptions, our own things that we are preoccupied with, our own stories that we just kind of come up with, those things that we hang on to, that we refuse to pay attention to, those things that are always there, just going over and over and over, and that we need to enlarge that keyhole so that we can look at what our thoughts are that is contributing to our behavior and our attitudes and our thinking. And so, what does this say? Give you a second here to look at it. In working with the prisoners and with the at-risk community, I use this quite a bit, make it up on a placard. What is it saying? Is it saying that hope is nowhere? Well, my intention is, or to look at, is that hope is now here. Now here. Hope is everywhere. It's always there, and it's in the present, and all we have to do is recognize it and buy into it. So I have 3 little quizzes here to kind of look at. So, and we're adding all of these up together to see what the denomination is. So if we have apples and bananas and peaches and tomatoes, what is it that we have? What is the commonality in all of them? Well, it would be fruit. And there'll be some people that may say, oh, but a tomato isn't a fruit. But it is classified as a fruit, although it may look more like a vegetable. But as we can begin to see all these things come together in unity in being the fruit. Well, then we look over here. We look at acting, which looks like motion. We look at thinking, which we're always thinking, whether it's deep or shallow. Whether it's feelings, meaning that we're always feeling something, happy, sad, emotional. And the physiology, whether we're chilly or whether our blood pressure is going up or whether we're calming down. And so what is the common denominator with all of those? Well, it's behavior. According to psychologist Dr. William Glasser, our behavior consists of those 4 elements. And maybe it doesn't seem like it, so give me a break. Surely not. And then over here, I've added some other things together. What about our appearance? What we look like? What about our character, who we are? What about our style of speaking and doing and those kind of things, you know? What about our personality? What could we come down here as the common denominator with all of those things? Well, I suggest it's who you are, that, and how they can flex and how they can change. So what I would like you to do right where you are, if you have a pencil or a pen and a piece of paper, I would like you to write your name in your non-dominant hand. Just go ahead and get a piece of paper or a pencil or pen and write your name with your non-dominant hand. And if you don't have a pencil and paper handy, write it with your finger, skywrite it. Skywrite your name, list your first name with your non-dominant hand. And now, was that awkward? Was it difficult? But if push come to shove and your dominant hand was injured, could you manage to get your message across with your non-dominant hand? Could you manage to do a chore? Could you manage to dress yourself? Could you manage to brush your teeth with that non-dominant hand? And so we're looking at the fact that sometimes we have more abilities to change than we give ourselves credit for, because we want to think, well, that's just the way I am. So in looking at the components of our behavior, the components of who we are, how much of it is gifted, meaning that it's part of the genes and the DNA system that comes to us from 10, 12 generations back, and how much of it is things that we learned even while in the womb that is still incorporating who we are today. Well, I suggest that some of the things, and there's probably more than this, that some of the things that we are gifted with at the moment of conception is our appearance, our skin color, our eye color, that it is pre-programmed how tall we will grow to become, that all of that in our appearance and all of its associates is part of that that's in the DNA and the genes that come together to, make us who we are at the moment of conception. And also our temperament. And I suggest that as we don't know what our various temperaments are and how to handle them, the more of a temper we may have and the more angry we may become. But that temperament is, I don't know, 15, 16, 20. There's just a plethora of them. And it includes things like our mood or our predictability or our approach to things or our persistence is all part of our temperament. Our energy level is a part of the temperament. And the spectrum is wide. It's very range. It's from being positive to negative as far as the moods go. It's from into our sensitivity. It can go from being non-sensitive to extremely sensitive. And that sensitivity also covers a wide range of things. It's not only in being hurt by emotions, but it is also like being sensitive to a soap or to a food or to the sun. There's so many things. I mean, there's just such a huge amount of variables. And then part of the things that we are gifted with is 5 basic needs. And they are needs. They are legitimate. We can't live without having these things being a part of our life. They are absolutely essential. And that includes our need to survive, to keep on breathing. It includes our need to love and belong. And not only do all of these basic needs, that's a part of our DNA that is pre-programmed into us, not only are they needy, but they also have varying degrees and varying, and that love and belonging goes to not only just being a part of the community, but that love and belonging goes all the way up into faith and in the divine. The range of each of these scopes are just astronomical, almost as big and wide as the whole world. We also have a need for power or for purpose or for accomplishment, for freedom, make our own choices, don't tell me what to do. And we have the need for fun and enjoyment. And then, but nature. How much of this stuff do we learn from the people that we hang out with, from those in the family into which we were born, into the culture in which we were born? And I suggest that it has a lot to do with the things that we learn as our attitude and what we value and how we behave. It can be broken down into different segments, but that's kind of a part of the things that we learn. And so life is a trip through our learning as well as through what we learn with our through schooling and reading and being and doing and interacting. And so here we're looking at your behavior car, which is our body. Dr. William Glasser, the founder of reality therapy and choice theory, used a common item to look at a complicated issue, which is our mind, our body, our everything we do. And it's a single passenger car only. There is 8+ billion of us on planet Earth, but every one of us is just who we are, just driving our own individual car. You are in the driver's seat. It's not a passenger car. Although there's others on the road, you are driving the car. You are the one that holds the keys to your car, or you have the fob in your hand. You are the one that is holding on to its access. There are a multitude of other cars on the road. And so as we drive, we want to please drive safely. To steer your car of life only on good roads, or only make good choices, because that's part of the things we can do is make choices. And we want to take care of our engine. We want to take care of our body. We want to take care of our car. We want to take care of who we are, our mind. We want to keep all these 4 wheels in good working condition so that we can continue to go and to encompass the world and to learn. And we also want to have some frequent tune-ups, to get the oil changed, to make sure that the battery is charged, to look at the things that's always in good working order. And so as we use our bodies, which is our manifestation of our behavior car, and we are driving through the real world consisting of people, places, and things that actually exist. But in the picture of our head, we have a quality world. And we're always taking that with us and trying to bring it into reality. But as we are experiencing this reality of life, we go through this pleasure-pain syndrome, that we are continually, we drive the loop again and again and again, that because we are searching for as much pleasure and happiness and success as possible, while avoiding as much pain and failure and discontent as we can. And so all of that is part of our behavior. And what does our behavior consist of? Our behavior is chosen. We are always choosing what we do, even if we're being threatened or enticed or coerced. The bottom line is we choose the way we behave. We choose our attitudes. We choose our values. and that all of our behavior is purposeful. It's for a reason, even though to us, we may not have thought about what the reason is. And to others, they have wondered, what in the world was the purpose of that? Our behavior is an attempt to get a need met. Our behavior is based on what we believe. Whether we came to that conclusion on our own, or whether it was something that we were told and we bought into it, our behavior is a thermostat of what we're feeling emotionally, feeling energetic wise. The way we behave, whether we're being lethargic or whether we're being slow of speech, it's kind of a thermostat. It's a way that people can gauge us as to what our feelings are. Our behavior says in action quite often what cannot be said in words, what we don't know how to express, what we don't know how to address, what we don't know, but we say it through our, has anyone ever said, well, what's wrong with you? And what's wrong? And you'll say nothing, and there really is something wrong. So our behavior is total. That goes with the thoughts we think, the actions we take, what we are doing, our physiology. There's more things that go with our behavior. Our behavior, the longer it goes on, the more it becomes a habit, and the more ingrained it becomes, and the more difficult it is for us to change those habits, those habitual behaviors. Our behavior that meets those predominantly one needs may be interfering with other needs. And our behavior is neutral, it's responsible, or it's irresponsible. Because just like we are always doing something, whether it's kind of neutral or responsible or irresponsible. So I got to thinking, what does behavior look like? Or what does responsibility look like? We have someone coming to fix our freezer that went out on us whenever we had the... Okay, so our behavior, or what does responsibility look like? Well, responsibility can be varying degrees. It can be sometimes doing way too much. Sometimes it can be not doing enough. What does responsibility look like? Well, it really looks like being respectful, giving respect, but it's also receiving respect or earning respect. Responsibility is displaying self-worth. Responsibility is feeling worthwhile. It is being motivated to excellence, that if you're going to do it, don't just do a lick and a promise, but do the very best that you can. It's being motivated to excellence. Being responsible is enduring hardships if necessary, and not griping and complaining. It's being responsible. It's doing the best you can. Responsibility speaks up, or sometimes responsibility doesn't speak. It's one of those things that's, again, it's so variable. So there's others. Responsibility can, in speaking up, can offer some solutions. It can address some issues. It can be show respect for others and listening to others. It's keeping your word. It is earning respect. It is being consistent. It is being accountable. It is being dependable, that if you give your word, you keep your word. It's being wise. It is being, well, it's being wise. It certainly leads to wisdom. And so Dr. Glasser said, we control the world through our by what? So I'm asking you, how would you fill in that blank? Or we control life. We control others for what? By what? Well, we control others for what we need by the way we behave. And again, whether that's responsible or irresponsible. And so, in working with those that may have been sent to my class because they were of their own choice or whether they were sent there. I like to look at the behaviors, the actions, the things that we do. What is it that some things that we do that seem so easy to do, and that becomes very difficult? Because I know a lot in parenting classes and 12-step classes, and people say about, oh, wow, but it's just so hard to quit the habit. It's so hard to not be angry. It's so hard to this. And so I like to look at what's easy for you to do. And we have to kind of know ourselves and get honest with ourselves. Is it easy for you to disregard someone or to disrespect them? Is it easy maybe to kind of call them some names? And this is not to cast a stone. It's to help you know yourself. Because, Socrates, way back when, and all of us still today, we need to know ourselves so that we can see, is it easy to lie? Is it easy to be prejudiced? Is it easy to have fun, to take risks, to go out in all kinds of adventures? Is it easy to break the rules, to just do what you want to do? Is it easy to give in to those titillating feelings that can kind of mess up a lot of things? Is it easy to be dishonest? And although it may seem easy initially, does it take you to a hard place? That it becomes harder and harder to remember the lies you told and to whom you told it? Does it become more and more difficult? And so, as we begin to take those things that are very, very difficult to do, but we begin to make a decision. Remember, that's one of those variables. That we make a decision to begin to choose to give respect, and in the process to earn respect. That we begin to choose to be honest, even if there are some more steps that we need to climb, even if it casts a shadow on who we really are, but being honest with it. What about beginning to trust those that are in authority, to those that keep trying to tell you that life would be so much smoother if you would do this, do that, do something else, not do this, not do that? Could you begin to trust them at all? Could you begin to trust yourself that maybe you could do that? And then what about becoming law-abiding? That, you know what, going the speed limit, you don't have to worry about getting tickets. Whenever you are within those healthy boundaries and not bucking against and going outside of, things really do begin to become so much easier. And so I have a quote here from Dr. Glasser. Dr. Glasser said, when we actually, and I highlighted actually, I put it in parentheses, because actually in a thesaurus, it means truly, essentially, in fact. When we, in fact, begin to realize that we can control our own behavior, the things we do, the things we say, the places we go, the attitudes we have, the choices we make, when we do begin to control our own behavior, we immediately, and I put that in parentheses, immediately means instantly, directly. It means we immediately, when we make that decision, it's like a burden falls off. Now, you have to develop some muscle to actually follow through. But immediately, you begin to redefine your personal freedom and find, in many instances, that we have much more freedom than we realize. that maybe I really do think I can't make it through the day without finishing off those chocolate chips. The reality is I really can. And so I thank you. I'm going to stop sharing. And I thank you for being here. And I wish you the best. And thank you for being here. And God bless and go in peace.